Gods Will Be Watching is a game that sort of defies genre. When it came out in 2014, it was pitched as a sort of point-and-click thriller, but many adjectives have described this title over the years. It's a sci-fi puzzle game. It's a hidden bar management simulator. It's a survival roguelike. It's a game of trial and error. It's a dubious moral maze. And it's shaped, for better or for worse, by its harsh level resets. Originally, Gods was released as a standalone Ludum Dare level in 2013 by fledgling indie studio Deconstruct Team. You're stuck on a frozen island for 40 days and must survive until your crew is rescued. You only get 5 moves a day and there's a hell of a lot that needs to be balanced. There's not enough food to go around, there's a busted radio to fix, and everyone is slowly going insane after being separated so harshly from civilization. There are 7 of you here, including a robot and a cute dog called Marvin. And you'll notice that when you click on your allies in the game, it lists not only their resource gathering actions, but also the option to kill them. You'd think initially that that's a bit silly, I'm trying to get my team to survive over here. But as the days get tougher, as food becomes more scarce, and as helpers devolve slowly into liabilities, you might want to revisit that option. Cannibalism. What good is a psychiatrist if she goes insane and runs away? If I need some more bullets, I could make them out of that robot over there. Or I could do the unthinkable. I could shoot the dog. You're gonna kill the dog! The prototype for Gods Will Be Watching made it to NerdCube's Free Games Friday series, which was 2013's town square for otherwise obscure indie titles. After a crowdfunding initiative on Indiegogo, it was picked up by Devolver Digital, making Gods Will Be Watching Deconstruct Team's first full official release. Now, Deconstruct Team has put out some real bangers over the years, and were later responsible for the Red Strings Club and the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, both released to critical acclaim, and have become cult classics in their own right. Gods Will Be Watching? Not so much. It came out to the tune of mixed reviews, with some critics hailing its ambitious efforts, whilst others were incredibly critical of its core premise. Now personally, I have a big soft spot for Gods, even though some of the evenings I've spent with it have been utterly rage-inducing. I'm not sure I would actively recommend it, certainly not over Red Strings or Cosmic Wheel, but I do like it. I like the characters, I like the concept, I like the art style, and I like the lore. But do I like the actual gameplay? Well, let's talk about that. Hopefully it'll make for a good video.
Xenolifer!
Oh my god. We're going to die, aren't we?
This can't be happening.
Don't lose your cool, Jack. If you wanted us dead, we'd be dead. We better start working fast and smart. Doctor, how much time do we have?
Based on our research so far, we'll be dead in about 27.5 hours.
That's plenty of time. Brandon, how much debris do we have blocking the exit?
3,712 kilograms exactly, sir.
Okay, that's plenty of work, but if we cooperate, we can dig all that out in 2 days.
You forgot the fact that we're all infected. Even if we get out, we'll be dead.
Understood. Your mission then is to find a cure in less than 48 hours.
That's impossible.
Everdusk, looking back, is my favourite level out of them all. Narratively, it's set just before the Ludum Dare demo takes place. Once the team lands on the otherwise hostile ice planet of... right, here we go. Synikos? Yeah, we'll go with that. Once the team lands on the otherwise hostile planet of Synikos, where they plan to cure the Medusa virus, they get blocked into their cave base by an otherwise unfortunate landslide during an unexpected attack. Obviously, this presents some challenges. Trapped in a base where the virus lingers, the team now has to develop an ambitious antidote in record time. Some of your comrades are more athletic than others, some are more academic than others, some have very limited capabilities. Marvin, for example, can only help dig. Others, like the empathic robot Brandon, can do all sorts of different things. He can provide power to the cave, he can recharge the defibrillators, and he can dig like an absolute champion at full charge. Some of the characters have their own specialisms, and will be better at some jobs than others. Some of them can only do one job, others can help with nearly everything. But all of them will eventually get tired or run out of charge, and as they get tired, a metric you can easily track through your robot friend, they become less and less productive. The logistical question of who is best at doing what is a fun one to weigh up, since it will always be reactive. As circumstances change, you will have to force team members onto a job they can't do well at all, simultaneously precluding them from doing the job they can do well, and it is in this choosing from a bad bunch which will decide whether you win or lose. And in pursuit of the 27-hour cure, corners will have to be cut, with medical ethics thrown out of the proverbial window.
Doctor?
Well, there are some lines that can be crossed up in order to speed up the investigation.
Cross them.
What do you mean, Doctor?
Human experimentation.
Are you insane? Are we just going to blindly shoot random compounds into ourselves?
Well, we can choose between a certain death or a possible death. I don't know about you, but I'll take my chances.
It is here that the moral dimension of this game rears its ugly head. From the very beginning, you are expected to make brutal decisions on who is the most disposable person that is also likely to survive a jab. Heavier team members are more likely to withstand a dangerous test antidote, but they're also some of the most skilled labourers you have on the job. Without Donald, you can't repair Brandon, and without Jack, your digging speed is much slower. They're not guinea pigs, they're human beings, and are all connected to each other. Jack's your ride or die. You've been with him since day one. Are you sure you want to jab him? The prime test subject is Donald, since he is the heaviest. But do you want to risk Sarah's husband, the woman who is actively working on that same antidote? Or do you jab the dog? Don't tell me you're jabbing the dog! What if he dies? What this pair of levels do effectively is leverage the variance of the mechanics in the game. By variance, I mean the variety of different resources you have that can help you out. Specifically human resources. You either need to keep as many people alive as possible to improve your odds of success, or you need to think about who you can do without to reduce your liabilities. Everdusk encourages you to maximize your variance in order to boost your probabilities. You ought to maximize the amount of antidotes you create, but must also ensure as many people as possible stay alive so you can have as much digging power as possible. Reduced variance leads to an increased chance of things going wrong. If you lose Donald, Brandon will take on double the workload, and if you lose Jack, everyone will have to dig a lot more, so you'll probably need to make more adrenaline to boost the others, meaning less time on the cure, meaning there is only time for riskier antidote combos. This level, it builds team spirit. You are hesitant to jab randomly in the pursuit of a speedy escape. Not only is it ineffective, it's morally dubious, and it's probably going to harm your team. Conversely, the following level in the final release, which just so happens to be the Ludum Dare level, it encourages you to minimize variance in order to boost probabilities. You ought to reduce the number of moving parts as soon as you are able in order to maximize your chance of success. Just shoot out those antidotes, then shoot Paul, that's one less mouth to feed, one less drag on your morale boosting activities. You don't even need the couple, none of their jobs are essential. Brandon doesn't need to eat, so once you've repaired the radio, you can turn him into bullets if you want. This level, it destroys team spirit. It actively encourages you to stop caring about certain people, and even to consider eating them as soon as they become disposable. Fewer mouths, fewer morale counters, means fewer issues to balance, which means fewer things going wrong. Patience might be a virtue, but sacrifice is much easier. Of course, even with all these nudges encouraging you to engage in human sacrifice, you still find yourself asking, is this the moral thing to do? Shouldn't I be trying my hardest to keep everyone alive? The game strongly encourages you to do just that during Everdusk, but soon after, in God's flagship demo level, and many of the later levels too, it keeps tempting you to do without your teammates, to remove their impact on the equation you have to balance. But at the same time, it's constantly reminding you that these people, well, they're people. By this point in the game, you'll have played 3 levels in pursuit of ECUK's goals. You'll be hesitant to kill some of their best staff, and the game will rub it in if you do. At the end of each stage, a post-level decision tracker appears, and you're placed on a kind of morality leaderboard, where your actions are compared with everyone else who's played before you. You don't want to be immortalized as the guy who sacrificed everyone, do you? If the gods were watching, what would they say about you? These chapters make for an incredibly strong iteration of the game's core message: justified sacrifice. You've not spent a lot of time with these characters, but you know that they are more than co-workers. Some are best friends, some are married, some have not seen each other for years. They have put their utmost trust in Sergeant Burden, and it is up to him to direct them to victory. All present, venerate your character.
Shower time! Sorry, did I wake you? My name is Irving, and the big boy in the funny helmet is Alexander. He doesn't speak much, but he's a good fella. That is unless you piss him off. But that ain't gonna happen, am I right?
Cut the crap. What do you want?
Relax. You don't want to push things here, trust me. My boss wants to know about you. The usual drill: age, sex, location. Oh, and he also wants to know what the you're doing in our lab. So anyway, first question.
Before you get to this pair of brilliant levels, however, you have to slog through 2 immensely repetitive stages, which will either make you tear your hair out in frustration or slowly rot your brain with obscene levels of boredom. How did we get to this torture chamber anyway? It all starts off with a compelling story. The very first level of the game presents you with a kind of cosmic trolley problem, where you're stealing data in an attempt to save the universe, but you might need to make some sacrifices on the way. You have 4 lives on the line, and you're hacking into the Holistic Empire's research portal for their intel, stealing it for what you assume to be noble goals. Some of the hostages you have on board are actually siding with your ideological slant, but all of them disagree with your methods. And of course that's the whole point of Gods Will Be Watching. What will you do for the sake of the greater good? Will you pull the trigger in pursuit of your goals? I mean, Liam over there just promised that nothing will happen to these guys. Will you make good on that promise? This setting provides a great backdrop to begin all of these thematic conversations. The issue is that after your 15th playthrough, you're not so bothered about the whole morality thing anymore. You just want to get it done. The whole grey area, moral quandary, will you, won't you message this game desperately wants to have is quickly overshadowed by the other thing it inevitably becomes, a resource management simulator. Once your team has died for the umpteenth time, shooting that hostage in the face doesn't seem like such a big moral decision now. You're much more focused on just getting past the first damn level. Most of the stage revolves around your control of the hostages. You have a lot of options at your disposal to keep them in check. You can kick them, shout at them, talk to them, shoot them in the face, etc. It should make for an interesting balancing act, but unfortunately they act in a manner which is patently unbelievable, and it doesn't help that initial hostage behaviour is completely unpredictable. Some of your hostages will be in an immediate doom spiral, while others will be away with the fairies thinking about what they're going to have for tea when they get home. Say I have the common situation of one hostage rocking around, distraught with fear, while the rest have become confident enough to attempt an escape. If I shoot the scared hostage in the leg to prevent him from making a wild dash of his own, the rest of them gain +1 in worry points, which makes them a little afraid, but you know, they're still not super bothered about all that blood coming out of their co-worker's leg. The others shouldn't go from cocky escapists to relatively chilled out hostages. Their actual reaction should be, things just got real. They should now be reset to some level of stress, thinking they might be next. Oftentimes they feel more like numbers than people, with their collective anxieties only superficially tied together. Anyway, regardless of how you approach the first level, you'll end up being thrown into the dingy torture chamber where we left off. Here you will be met by Irving McAllister and his trusty sidekick Alexander, who will work to make your life a living hell for the foreseeable future. Your buddy Liam comes to try and rescue you, but he can't bust you out immediately, so in the interim, he's on hand to give you medicine, painkillers, or intel that McAllister might want to know about. You're expected to stay alive for as long as possible until Liam can mount a rescue operation. You control both Burden and Jack, and they have 5 moves. Provoke, beg, think, lie, and confess. If you provoke, the person provoking gets hit. If you beg, your torturers may take pity on your frail, weak body, or not, and you'll both be tortured. If you think, you'll both be tortured, but you will improve your odds of telling a successful lie, which will prevent you from getting harmed. Tell an unsuccessful lie and you'll get burned. If you confess, Irving won't torture you. Confess enough times and he will dispose of you.
I'm sorry, but we can't be friends. Alexander, we don't need them anymore. Kill them and call the cleaners.
No, wait!
You'll soon find that this level is all or nothing, and that death often hits you out of nowhere. Unlike the other levels we've covered where your decision-making capacity becomes more limited if you lose control over the situation, in this level you must place yourself on the edge of death to survive. Then you'll roll badly, then you'll die, and then you'll have to do it all over again. This level is a repetitive, luck-based, arbitrary exercise in min-maxing an unseeable health stat. The main calculation, perhaps the only one that you make, is who is further from the brink of death and can just about take a punch right now. If nobody can take a punch, then the secondary calculation becomes, is my lying percentage high enough for me to avoid having my teeth ripped out, or am I going to have to hope that begging for mercy works? Either that or you confess, which if done enough times will get you killed. These are not very meaningful or interesting choices. You don't have any agency over how you organise the situation, the crux points, the parts where you tell lies, they're just brute luck. Arguably this is the point. Torture victims aren't exactly in powerful positions, but the issue gameplay-wise remains. There is no freedom of approach, there's no moral dimension, and progression is too linear. The one thing you do have control over is what Liam brings you for the next day. To choose the most effective option, you will have to make a mental note of what torture is coming up next and pick appropriately. Let's say they put Jack up on the wall. You need to maintain the focus on Burden to make sure Jack isn't ripped in half. To make sure Burden can take the punches, you'll probably need some painkillers to get through the day. But until you replay the whole thing over, you cannot know in advance what you will need. Irving doesn't give you any clues, and the game doesn't take note of the torture schedule. You will have to fail in order to succeed, meaning you have to keep repeating the same dialogues over and over and over. It quickly begins to feel like you're just going through the motions, punch by punch, tooth by tooth, burn by burn.
Freeze! Identify yourself!
Where am I? What is this place?
Are you wearing an Everdusk spacesuit?
Yeah, the Nebula. I had an accident?
I don't know, sir. You're on the desert planet of Legend in the middle of a war. We fight for the Constellar Federation, of course.
I see. How can I help?
Sir, you just survived what should have been a fatal orbital shipwreck. And you're telling me you're ready for action? I heard Everdusk was full of puny nerds. By the gods, was I wrong?
The 5th level, in particular, is one of the great banes of my gaming life. It's called Legend, and for good reason. It's an epic setting, a grand tale of retreat and redemption, with a stellar backing track and some of the most infuriating gameplay mechanics of all time. In this level, for lore reasons I shan't elaborate on too broadly, you're commanding a team of 9 soldiers from the Constellar Federation who are in retreat from a war they have no chance of winning. You're essentially there by accident, but since you're a few ranks their senior, you're tasked with leading them to safety. The desert planet of Legin has twin suns, making the journey an unforgiving hike in the heat. In your team you have 1 medic, 5 soldiers, and 3 scouts. The medic keeps track of the stamina levels, the soldier can ambush enemy outposts, and the scouts can engage in reconnaissance. You'll spend the majority of your 155 in-game hours that pass with each turn, sending your scouts on recon missions and awaiting their return. With their intel, you can plan a route to the Constellar Federation's rescue camp and return your men to safety. The trade-off for doing recon can be unforgiving. Scouts may or may not come back in time. You're given no intel on the likelihood of their success beforehand, and you will have to make a judgment call on abandonment in these cases, despite having no useful information to base this decision on. Ideally, you don't want to leave any man behind, but you'd be ill-advised to run blindly towards danger to try and save them. They do not always run into harm, and sometimes the coast is clear. They're just taking a few turns longer than they ought to, but sometimes they're dead, and due to the time crunch, you might have to gamble with a different route without any recon. Then, boom, you're in front of a military outpost, straight from a full squad to an instant loss. As such, the big decision is often, how long should I wait for my men to return? You will soon find that other questions lurk with a quiet hum in the background. At what point should my men drink our water rations? How often should they drink? How long should we rest for? Do we have the sufficient manpower to mount an attack on this enemy base? There's a lot to juggle, and you will not always be in a position to even approach these questions when you have no water, when you can't find shelter, or when you're low on ammo. It should make for a great continuation of God's brutal morality conversation. But unfortunately, it's overshadowed by walls. Yes, walls! Why the hell are there so many walls? The game tells you which direction the camp is each time you play. Let's say it's northeast of where you begin. Alright, easy. Let's do some recon north for a few spaces, then go east, north then east, north then east. Not so fast. To the north, there's a huge cliff blocking your path. Not to worry, you think. We'll simply go east for a while instead. Aha! No! Foiled again by a massive, unaccountable wall to the east, preventing you from progress. Now you must go south and hope there's no wall placed inexplicably in your way, otherwise you will have to arbitrarily backtrack through the desert and lose hours of time through no fault of your own. Scouts do not give you much intel in this regard. If you send them 4 spaces ahead and they run into a wall by the 2nd space, they'll tell you they had to turn around. But if there's a wall by the 4th space, they won't tell you this, and they will never tell you if there's a wall in one of the other directions you might want to travel from once you get there. In other words, you can have an absolutely stellar run only for it to be ruined by maze mechanics. A dry feature of gaming which has never been fun since the age of the boomer shooter. What's the point? Why introduce such an arbitrary, and dull feature. If the level isn't hard enough, which by the way is certainly not the case here, then rebalance the stats you already have. Don't introduce mazes. Fortunately, you also have the great pleasure of being unable to skip the starting dialogue, which means a million clicks before you begin again. After maybe my 20th attempt to beat this level, I marked down the routes and made huge graphs tracking where I'd been during the run. This must have been quite a common tactic apparently, as someone on the Gods Wiki posted an Excel spreadsheet with part of their route to the finish line. But why isn't there an inbuilt map feature to help you collate this data? Why isn't one of your guys like a cartographer or something? In sum, Legend is emblematic of everything great that this game does, and more. Amazing soundtrack, captivating visuals, moral dilemmas, survivalist suspense. But it's also got silly repetitive nonsense thrown in there for no reason whatsoever, and as such it is simultaneously emblematic of that nonsense. In the first level, we had hostages displaying bizarre behaviour, second level seemed to think that repetition was a virtue, not a chore, and now, to top it all off, arbitrary maze games. All of these kneecap the part that makes this game great at other times. When you're forced to retry the game over and over because of these arbitrary mechanics, it becomes a question of brute luck rather than morality. Navigating mazes, torture patterns, rote memorization, it's not the hard task we signed up for. Funnily enough, it's actually the easier levels which are the most enjoyable. When the game actually gives you a choice to take the easy route, to make sacrifices in pursuit of speed and results, it makes you feel pretty damn bad about it. Sure, you're gonna make it, but your crew has been slimmed down to a skeleton of what it once was. This gives you the personal motivation to play again, to play effectively, to keep retrying until you learn how to save everyone. Now that is a challenge that's worth accepting. There are 3 other levels, including the DLC level, which we're not going to talk about here, since you can't really do that while avoiding mega plot spoilers. But from a review of these 5, maybe you can see why I'm conflicted about this game. It has a really cool morality survival thing going for it, and when it positions itself well, it forces you to think deeply about the choices you're making. But good grief, it's a game that loves to repeat things. In several areas, the game needs difficulty adjustments. The earlier levels ought to be much more straightforward. All they need to do is set up the story for what follows, laying the groundwork for the Medusa virus which the story revolves around. They do not need to be quite so brutal, and the torture level in particular should not be that long. One can only imagine how many players quit before the going got good because of the drag in that first half of the game. Simultaneously, however, the stronger levels need to be more high stakes, forcing the player down one singular unresettable run while making the character death more permanent is one means of executing this, I think. If the characters do die, even if most of them die and you somehow still win, they just reappear in the next level like nothing even happened, like you succeeded and did nothing wrong. And this kinda sucks. It undercuts the whole choices matter mantra, which the game otherwise wants to espouse. If the other levels weren't quite so repetitive and inanely difficult, the cost of a hard reset to get those characters back would be very painful, but it would still be a route worth considering for those who find themselves in the most dire situations. Either you bite the bullet and give the whole run another go, or you soldier on, isolated, without your comrades beside you. The choice would be yours, Sergeant Burden. It would fittingly be your burden to bear.